Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Kenny Conversation, brought to you by JEGS, the leader in high performance aftermarket car parts. Remember to go to jegs.com, and they are telling me right now they have everything for Jeeps and trucks. Go to jegs.com and looky right there. There he is. One of the men that really helped JEGS get on the map, Jeg Coughlin Jr. Jeggy, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I just feel like giving you a jigs to the.
JEGS.
That's about as good as I can give you. Now I'm sitting here in the thriving metropolis of just outside Orlando. My daughter Carly, 9 years old, competing in the world finals of cheer competition. So we slid right out of Vegas, home for a day and change, and down to Orlando for her event. So great to be on the show, man. I'm a follower. I've enjoyed, and I know we go back a long ways, and we've had a lot of good times together. So this ought to be a good one too.
Well, thank you, Jeggy. First of all, you're unique. You are incredibly talented. I have admired you for years for the ability to win at Indy for the U.S. Nationals, and then the very next morning you were at JEGS helping run the business. And I just wanted to give you a compliment before we get going. You are an incredible athlete, a great businessman, obviously a good father. Um, so let's start like this. You are a six-time world champion, winning the NHRA Pro Stock Championship 5 times and Super Gas Championship. I think I could be one behind here. 66 Pro Stock wins, a total of 84 national event victories. Am I close?
You're close. Yeah, we just we're hot off a good one in Vegas. Hot off a heater there, and I guess the tally's up to 85 now. So big win in pro stock after making my return. So feels good to kind of renew my vows, so to speak.
I'm happy I'm one behind. And by the way, that bird in the background is a beautiful setting. That just calmed me down.
Well, we know we need everything we could do to just keep you level.
Okay. So, my opinion, okay? This is my opinion. I don't want nobody giving me stats. You made one of the biggest comebacks, in my opinion, in NHRA history, especially pro stock. You were off 3 years exact. I mean,
Yeah.
you did not run pro stock for 3 years. You come back last week in your fourth race. Uh, you win. Uh, just unbelievable. How did you not lose anything? How did you come back, jump in the seat, and win against the toughest competition NHRA has to offer?
Well, it's similar to you racing your dirt late model on Thursday nights, Friday nights, Saturday nights. I've been doing um, similar racing in the bracket race world the last 3 years, which is cutthroat and as competitive as drag racing can get. Now, it's a different style of racing. It's not the first one to the finish line is your guaranteed winner like Pro Stock, Top Fuel, and Funny Car, but it has a breakout rule where you have to not go under your predicted time. So you have to be near perfect on the starting line, and you need to be near perfect at the finish line to advance past your competition. So I've grown up doing bracket racing. In fact, I won a big 50,000 to win race in St. Louis just this past June, this last summer in my dragster, which was one of the highlights of last year, next to watching my wife win a race and my little daughter Carly as well. So it's I've kind of stayed sharp doing that, doing something I love. So coming back to pro stock was not something I really had in my kind of scope, if you will. I stepped away at the end of 2020. Troy Jr., just a great young kid and an ambassador of the sport, somebody that just loves, is just cut pro stock through and through. Hopped in behind the wheel of the Elite Motorsports JEGS.com machine that I've driven basically my entire life and has done a fantastic job. So, with that, I stepped away at the end of 2021, which was not in our scope at the end of 20. My brothers and I had a transition in the family business, JEGS, and all of a sudden I found myself with some what do I call it? Elective time after stepping away from pro stock. And then a year and a half or so later, I found myself with a lot more elective time on my hands, which again, neither one of those were really so much in my scope. And, when Richard Freeman contacted me at the end of 2023, they had a brand new car, Rick Jones Camaro for Erica, who was in the heat of the battle to kind of secure her sixth world championship. And she's a badass, let me tell you. So, Richard's approached me to drive some things in the past since I retired, and I've just gracefully declined. At this point in time, with those two transitions well behind me, I said, yeah, I would love to come out and shake down a new car in competition, and also to see if I can't help block or take out some main competitors for that are in her way of the Pro Stock Championship. So long-windedly, that's kind of what's brought me back behind the wheel of a Pro Stock car. I was able to meet the folks from Skag Power Equipment, Randy Glady and company, and we hit it off extremely well. And next thing you know, here we are, 2024. We're in a cat's eye gold Chevy Camaro Pro Stock machine, and it feels fantastic.
Okay. Wow. Capital.
A lot going on there.
Well, yeah, and there's so much. So I'm going to use one of my mama's phrase. Not to you, but to the fans. The fans are saying right now, don't insult my intelligence. Tell me more. And I want to get back to Vegas in a minute. You won with a 6.628 over your nephew, Troy. You win the 4 wide at Vegas. It was one of the biggest comebacks in the NHRA Pro Stock history because you took 3 years off. However, you brought it up. You just told me a lot. And everybody knows it was worldwide news. So your father, JEGS Senior, hey, I want to talk about your name just for a minute here. And I want to continue with the question. Your dad is Jeg. You're Jeg Jr. But yet to this day, you're 53 years old and everybody calls you Jeggy.
Yeah.
I like that. My brother Rusty, his real name's Russell, but my mom and dad call him Russie, so they call him Rusty. Do you like being called such a young name? Hey, Jaggy, good win.
Hey, I feel young at heart, so bring it on. So, no, it feels pretty good. In all honesty, my father's Edward James Coughlin. At birth, he was given a nickname, Jeg, from his parents. James, J from James, his name, E from Edward, his father's name, and G, his mother's name, Genevieve. And so his nickname at birth, a redhead, fire redhead and ready to go. They wanted to give him a nickname to try and deter that through life for him, which was pretty forethinking on his parents' part. So they nicknamed him Jeg from that acronym. And it pretty much, it did stick. 1 and 2, I think everybody in the whole world knows him as Jeg without question. And I think other than Uncle Sam knows him, I think, as Edward James and Jeg. I think he knows him as both. But it's been a very unique name, and it's so I'm actually Jeg Anthony Coughlin, which would be technically the first. But when we had our son Jeg, we named him while we were sitting right in Riverside Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. In honor of my father, we named him Jeg the Third, and because it just seemed like that was the natural thing to do. Now, historians and whatnot will look back the family tree someday and say, what were these guys on or what were they doing? But it was that was our decision, and we stuck with it. So it's a really, really cool name. Obviously, the business JEGS was named after my dad's nickname. 65 plus years ago now, and we're carrying it on very proudly.
And as Paul Harvey would say, and that's the rest of the story. And I just learned a lot. I'm so happy that you told me that. That has been driving me nuts like a fly in my ear for years. I knew Jeg wasn't a real name, and now you just explained it to me. All right, so JEGS made worldwide news a handful of years ago. Your dad decided. Now, I want to remind everybody, it's a family business. Your dad had owned it. You boys worked there. You're a very big part of JEGS. You work extremely hard. I've witnessed it with my own eyes. So you decided to sell a little bit of it to the Greenbrier Group. Now,
Yep.
was that one of the reasons that you took this 3-year break in NHRA?
No, we honestly didn't have that in our future. We had considered this about maybe 6, 8, 10 years ago, my brothers and I, but did a quality of earnings on the business and just elected to steer away from it. In the family succession side of things, I mean, my father Jeg was a mastermind. In the late '80s, he transitioned the business to my three brothers and I. We took ownership. I was a senior in high school,
Wow.
taking a 25% ownership in, and at that time a very big performance aftermarket wholesaler and retailer, and we were just on the brink of, which my father was a huge part of for years thereafter, of going direct to consumer with a catalog, and we did that in the late '80s, printed our first catalog, and kind of that's where the retail side of the business really took off. And then you fast forward, through the internet phase of the early 2000s, 2010, and when we decided to make a transition, and the Greenbrier Capital Group came in, and that was an interesting process for my brothers and I. We were excited to see again what is the value of this company. We had some valuations done, and went through a process, with the banking group to get it on the market, and we had some really neat opportunities through that whole process, to look at different companies to come in and kind of help take over the reins of JEGS. I mean, we'd grown it to nearly a $400 million brand at the time. And our goal and vision with partnering with such a great capital group was to see it get to, a $500 million, $750 million, and even that $1 billion mark, which we know is certainly out there. So, it's weird as you're looking through a process like that. We're almost interviewing the buyers as much as they're interviewing us to try and try and find the right partner to dance with, and that's not easy because we've never done it before.
Yeah.
But we enjoyed the process, and we did sell a majority share in the company at the end of 2021, and that's where I said a little more elective time came under my umbrella, and when this came up with Richard Freeman to consider doing some testing and see where that took us, became much more interesting to me.
Well, I've been to the JEGS, the main place, the flagship, and you guys got it going on. Quick delivery overnight, all automated. And when I see those tractor trailers being loaded up, it blows my mind. There'll be a drag tire, then a dirt tire, then a seat, then a shock, then a muffler. JEGS definitely has it all. Okay.
Engines.
I mean, everything, right?
It blows my mind. We built that facility you were in, and moved into it in late 1999. We're still kind of young cowboys running a business and having a ball and building this multi-million-dollar automated facility. And, we're fortunate when you look around the outer belt of Central Ohio, you've got, the likes of McGraw-Hill, the textbook maker for a lot of the schools. You've got all the limited brands. You had Sears, you had J.C. Penney, you had Eddie Bauer and Spiegel. So,
Wow.
we're fortunate to be able to, point is go through a lot of different facilities to see what technologies were relevant at the time, what might fit in our industry, what might not fit in our industry. And voila, we built our new facility there. And it doesn't seem like, 24 plus years ago already. Really does feel like yesterday. And at 53, I still feel in those late 20s myself, but my body tells me different every now and then.
I understand. Well, that is a whole nother show, JEGS. So let's move forward. Let's change subject a little bit ago. I believe that you are a drag racer's dream, whether it's a fan or just somebody that loves drag racing. And here's why. And you brought it up. You said that you've been racing a little bit, and you've been playing a different game. Not the first one to the line wins in what you've been doing. So you hold an NHRA record for winning in 4 divisions in 1 year: Pro Stock, Super Stock, competition, and super gas. Now, I've got a lot more here that I want to go through. Why do you run so many different divisions throughout your career?
I think it was more of a progression. There was never really a site to say, hey, here I am at 20 years old running in super gas and doing some bracket racing. By this year or this year or this year, I want to be in this class or that class or beyond. I never really had that in mind. Things just kind of played out. I'm the youngest of four boys in our family, John, Troy, Mike, and then myself. And so I grew up watching my father race, working on his car, and then grew up going to the races with John, which was, we had a ton of fun. He's a hell of a racer and a competitor himself. And then Troy started racing, Mike started racing, and then I was the last to follow. Point is, the year I won 4 different eliminators was kind of a mistake. I was racing in comp eliminator and super stock. My super stock car was just being a pain in the ass, and we weren't able to get it really working well. So I took a super gas car to the Englishtown, New Jersey national event, the Summer Nationals, and I'll be damned if I didn't win the son of a gun. It's one of the last times I ever drove that car in 1997, I guess it would be. And so that was that. I won in comp eliminator earlier that year. Then I won in super stock also that year. And then I won in super gas there at Englishtown. And then you fast forward, my brother Troy had been running pro stock for a couple of years. He was partnered with Larry Morgan as kind of his engine builder and consultant, so to speak. He had then moved on and was racing with one of the greatest, Warren Johnson, and they were partnered in the 1997 season. And as a family, we were talking. There was a new class coming out called Pro Stock Truck, and that seemed to be kind of in a linear path as my competition eliminator car. It was a small block Chevy with a 5-speed transmission, but in a much lighter and unique looking S10 truck. And so we talked about potentially diving into that as a family and as a business. And my father's like, Troy's running in pro stock. I think we could probably more economically run 2 cars in that class than we could, two cars in 2 completely different disciplines from a financial standpoint. And I think I had to think about it for about a half a second, and I said sure. So later on in 1997, we had rolled out a second car. We partnered with Dick Maskin, the great at Dart Machinery, and a lot of pro stock fame with Dick from an engine building standpoint and developing standpoint, and a pioneer in the aftermarket world that we offer at JEGS still today. So we bring that car out. I get my license on, say, a Wednesday. We go to Norwalk. We make a few more test runs with a 500 cubic inch pro stock motor. And then we go right to Dallas for my first jump in the sea with these Sharks pro stock race. I beat Scott Jeffrey on first round, got beat second round by the world champ, Jim Yates. The next week is the race in Houston. And, things just went our way. Qualified well, run through the field on Sunday, and hoisting a trophy in my second ever pro stock start. And that was the 4 categories. Very long-windedly, I apologize, but
no.
It was a good time.
This leads up to my next question. I have talked to your previous pro stock owners. I've talked to your previous crew chiefs, and I always ask the great athletes like yourself, what does Jeggy have that other drivers don't? When I asked John Force that, he had fun with me. And then when I asked Erica that, or Ron Capps, but everybody around you tells me the one thing that you have. I'm going to tell you what they say, and then you answer it. They say that you are a computer. They say when you get to the end of a run, and the parachute's pulled and you're calmed down, you're like a computer. You're downloading. You're telling them things that no other drivers can tell them. And I would think that's why you win in everything. Comment on that. You're like no other driver. That's the word on the street. Jeg's a computer. He tells us things that no other drivers tell us.
Well, IBM, are you out there? Are you listening?
Yeah.
We need some help.
Log into his brain.
Right. No, it's been growing up in the sport, having a mentor like my father, I'll go back to him again here. He was just a brilliant mastermind in the business world. And then when I started racing professionally, he managed our entire team. He was my crew chief, my brother's crew chief as well. But much before that, we go race, and he would just always ask, what did you feel? What did
Oh,
you hear? Did you smell it? Even
it's the
something,
dad that constantly questions you.
it was a question. It was never, he was always the questioner. He was never, if you asked for the answer and he didn't feel you were there, he could give you an answer without question. But he was always very crafty in forming a question to get you to think. And that developed over an entire lifetime. At the end 1997, I'm 27 years old, so I'd already had 20 plus years of this, that mind frame. But when you hop into a pro stock car, there's a lot more going on than any other race car I've ever driven.
So you did all this because of your dad's influence. Yeah,
Absolutely.
incredible.
And fortunately, I was able to innately pick up on the cues of which he, had kind of triggered. Not everyone maybe picks up on those cues either, and I was fortunate to be able to maybe do just that, and then be able to improve on some things, for either myself personally or feedback for the engineers and the crew chiefs. But no, it's been a neat psychological experience, my lifetime.
You have to
Without,
take pride in people talking about you like that.
yeah, no doubt. I haven't heard it. I've heard it framed in different ways in my life, but yeah, it is. And what really hits home with me is I had a 3 year. I retired. I mean, I was done racing. I was happy as a lark. You know,
I'm retired too.
yeah, I get it. So,
I should be down there with you right now.
hey, where's my cup of coffee? Let's cheers.
Mm.
But no, it was I was retired. I was happy, and here we are 3 years later, and to be able to pick it back up again, does feel good. We've made many runs in our career where the onboard data did not record, and early in my life in the late '90s, my dad would just say, "Hey, well, can you just draw me out the RPM graph, what you think it looks like, what you think the drive shaft graph looks like, and what you think the clutch graph looks like?" Because
So badass.
I was very much in tune with all the digital side of racing, so I would do that. And I remember the spring nationals we won in, pal, I don't know what year it was, 98, 99. Uh, First round we didn't get a graph, so I drew it out, and he's watching the car, so now he can say, okay, I see what he's saying here, or I agree with it, or I don't, whatever his mindset was on it. Well, lo and behold, we win second round. Again, no computer. We go through the same drill. We end up winning the race that day. Fast forward, my first ever run with Elite Motorsports, I was driving Drew Skillman's car in a year that I was not racing. I think it was 2015. Richard asked if I wanted to just come out and run the Western Swing because Drew was not going to make the three races, Denver, Sonoma, and Seattle. And I had a prior golfing commitment during Denver. So I said, man, I can't make Denver, but I could certainly make the last two. And we ended up doing that, on Q2 of Sonoma. I went to the number 2 spot, and the computer, it probably would have worked fine, but the idiot behind the wheel didn't turn it on, and which was me. And so, when we got back to the trailer, we've got all the engineers, and we're, oh shit, we didn't get any data, that kind of deal. And so I just drew him a picture of what I thought it looked like. And, there's a couple of chuckles and, haha, whatever. Okay, cool. And I got a phone call about 10 o'clock that night from Jake Harrison, who's our chief engineer over all the motor tuning stuff. He's like, you know what? I forgot at that time that we could download out of the ignition system.
Oh.
And so, our race pack didn't work because I didn't turn it on, but the ignition system did catch, the MSD did capture the data, most of the data. He says, I just want to call and tell you we got the data, and well, by God, it overlays damn near exactly with what you drew out. And I just want to tell you, he appreciated me doing that, and furthermore was, I guess, slightly impressed with me being able to, navigate something on paper to what I felt. But I was starting to say, a pro stock car is, there's something else to drive. I mean, you've done a burnout in one, and it's
They're
not that it's
intimidating. There's a lot to them.
yeah, not that it's not easy, but it's just there's a lot there. But in a pro stock car, let's just we'll get through the burnout and back up. You got to be like a robot. Everything's to the almost the millisecond of being perfect. You're on the clutch the right amount of time. You got the clutch pushed in the right amount of time. When you're pre-staged and you're staged, you go to the rev limiter, and as soon as you see the yellow and pop the clutch, and you're starting to accelerate, you're accelerating just under 4 Gs in that first probably second and a half of the launch in first gear and second gear for that matter. You got a shift light right in front of your face that lights up at about just over 3/4 of a second after you let the clutch out to say, hey, idiot, it's time to put it in second gear. That's your cue. So, it takes you a couple tenths of a second to react to it, another tenth or so to get it into gear. And now that gets it perfectly up to the 10,500 max rev limit that we're allowed in pro stock today. So that's all first gear. All the meanwhile, the seat of your pants is kind of microprocessing. Okay, what's the car doing? Is it going straight? Do I need to give it some input on the steering wheel? Is it starting to, do I feel the tire oscillating a little bit? Is it oscillating because it's spinning, or is it oscillating because it's shaking and actually, doesn't have enough power to get it to move? So you're kind of microprocessing what's going on all in that first probably 2 or 3 seconds of the run to try and manipulate the most efficient quarter-mile drag race you can. And it's nuts to break it down, because that run takes 6.5 seconds at 213, 14, whatever the miles per hour are. And it just took me a minute to tell you the things going through my mind in that couple second period.
But there are a lot of drag racing fans listening right now. And what you just did could be, I have Charlie, my YouTube manager, have him cut that out, because that's what the fans want to know.
Yeah.
And that was absolutely unbelievable to listen, because I didn't know what I was doing. You all helped me. I got pictures of us. We're gonna drop it in right here. Charlie's gonna show that. I did a simple hole shot, and I was so green, I couldn't understand it. You hold the clutch in, you hold it wide open. But let me change subjects real quick. In the same area, we're going to talk about the same thing. I always tell everybody, any conversation is a celebration of that person. We don't try to get you. This is not a negative deal. This is a learning situation. So years ago and up to right now, you are also known as one of the greatest reaction time drag racers in the history of NHRA. You were cutting 0.10 lights way before the kids were. Now, let's go back to Vegas, okay? It's like the students are getting ready to teach the teacher now. Your nephew cuts a 0.11. You cut a 0.22. But here's my point. You started that. You are the innovator. The man you're looking at right now, you are the one that was automatic, a computer, cutting these zero lights all the time. How did you learn that? And obviously now they've caught up to you a little bit. Not all of them. But where did that start with you? How did you cut these incredible lights?
Oh, it's just started by following the sport, racing with my dad, racing with my brothers. It's just something I enjoyed. I enjoyed every bit of all the mathematics of the sport as a kid and as a teenager. And I think I got my first practice tree riding around in a Suburban with John, going to the races, and all over the country. So, and we rigged a cigarette lighter so we could plug it in the cigarette lighter, and we just we competed as a family, riding down the road in the
as a
living
child.
room, as a child. So, I didn't have the luxury of today's racers to be in a junior dragster and get some real seat time going down the racetrack, but we definitely got a lot of time, with just a practice simulator. It's a simple push and hold the button. The tree fires yellow. You let go of the button, gives you your reaction to a perfect green start, which is 0.000. And back then I would write down 100 reaction times in a row. I'd divide them by 100. That was my average. Today's units give you all the statistics you want to know, and then some. So, but it's I think it was times like that that really allowed me to, uh, get comfortable with reaction time. I was usually one of the quicker people of, that were on the practice tree or even in a race car for that matter, to be able to launch a car. So that didn't hurt either. You fast forward through early part of my career into the early 2000s, all the Christmas trees had what we're used to then, an incandescent bulb. You know, the you know power signal goes to the tree, the bulb, gets the signal, it starts to light a filament up, it comes on, you react to it, you go. Well, in the early 2000s, and I was very quick at that. I
See the
could
filament lighting up.
I could see the filament lighting up, whether it was in the professional racing or the sportsman racing, and that was a big help. Um, I hear some background noise. Is that okay?
Oh, it's beautiful.
All right, cool.
Keep going.
You fast forward to the early 2000s when NHRA came out with the first LED bulb, and these things are like instant on. I mean,
Oh,
there is no filament. I think I led the class in reaction time. Each year I was in pro stock, and my average reaction time to the average of the entire class was about 2.5 to 300 better to the whole class.
I love
And
this story.
then the very first year of the LED trees, I think I still led the reaction time. It was much better as an average. And then the class average was only about 100th of a second behind me. So,
Unbelievable story. So the
yeah,
light bulb changed the game.
well, there's no question. NHRA did it to, the Top Fuel and Funny cars are so, I won't say violent. That's not the right word. There's so much horsepower, so much ground shaking that the filaments would often burn out in the bulbs. So they were
Wow.
able to upgrade their bulbs to LED that are pretty much a lifetime lasting bulb or diode. And but in the midst of doing that, it kind of picked my pocket a couple hundredths of a second to the field, which again, that's part of the game. We enjoyed that while we had it, and from that point to today, we have to be crafty in other measures.
And you're still winning. You just did it last week. You shifted properly. You did all the right things. So that leads me. This is perfect segue. You're the only drag racer to win from all qualifying spots, 1 through 16. You won from the 16th spot in 2000 at Indy. You qualified 16th. So that meant you were 16th. You were junk.
Yeah,
And,
I was.
and you came from 16th to beat everybody. Was a
But
lot of that? Could you come from 16th because of your reaction time? Or did you get
yes,
the car better?
no, it was both, without question. You know, 2000 was a banner year for us, for Team JEGS, and for me, and inside of that Oldsmobile Cutlass that I raced. I mean, we were almost unstoppable that entire season, winning the Winston Championship. But Labor Day weekend, U.S. Nationals,
Special.
granddaddy of them all. We're struggling. I mean,
100 degrees out.
we're on the struggle bus, big time. Friday night is the premier qualifying session, period. 99% of the qualified cars came from Friday night. And in Indy, there's 5 qualifying sessions, 1 Friday night, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday. We got all the way up to Sunday's last qualifying effort. We're not qualified. It's hotter than blue blazes out. And, we we barely tipped our way into the show. There's about 30 cars going for 16 spots too, by the way,
Wow.
which makes it tough. So
Yeah.
we broke ourselves into the field, and there were still 6 cars behind me that could bump us out of the field. So it
Oh,
was one of those nerve-wracking moments that I'll never forget. We stay in the
brutal.
show. We stay in the show. I go to the Carcraft All-Star Drag Racing event that night at the local convention center to, fortunately receive a Driver of the Year award, and also receive a Crew Chief of the Year award for Dick Maskin. And they stayed at the racetrack, and they went through my car from front to back, side to side, top to bottom, reset the entire car. And I remember my dad saying, we've got this thing as good as we think we can make this car right now. And I said, that sounds great. I said, I got all the confidence in the world. He says, but we just might need a little help this first round, because
Mm.
it may not go perfectly straight. It may not do this or that. I said, I'm in. So, here we are racing the number one qualifier. Number one race is 16. As a benefit to being the fastest, you run the slowest. And but we're really a top five
But
car.
this is where your legend was born. Things like this, 16 going up against one,
Yeah. So
and
we
you kicked their ass.
we worked our way through the field that day, and that was one of the points in history that we made.
Yeah, so badass. Okay, so much to keep talking about. So I want to go back to your family for a minute. Right now, you're driving for Team Elite, and
Yep.
in my world, in Kenny's brain, because I'm a NASCAR dude, dirt dude, Elite just kind of starts showing up on the radar for me. But I remember when the JEGS family, was going to do the pro stock deal, and then you all shut it down, and your team was out of North Carolina. And I
Yep.
remember asking somebody there, it could have been you. So I'm going to ask you right now, how come the JEGS family did not keep owning their own pro stock car?
Well, it was a situation of really just
You going to kill each other?
no. It was I think managing the engine development side of the business
Yeah.
was something that it just wasn't maybe my forte or our forte.
Too
We
hard.
had great people, we had great engineers, but at the end of the day, it was just it took a lot of time to do it, and
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with that. I was probably working more hours on that and trying to support that growing than the main business of JEGS. And when you look at the grand scope of things, that's a little backwards. So
Well, we hear the story of Glidden, a crazy man at night working on these motors. I can't imagine you doing that while you're running JEGS. Glidden was gnarly.
yeah, no,
You had a business to run.
exactly. And so we just made the decision to sell off that part of the business, and we still owned our racing teams. We just didn't do all the engine development side, which is honestly a multi-million-dollar project to do
Yeah.
and to do properly if you want to be a front-running team. Good friend of mine, Richard Freeman, ended up purchasing a lot of our engine pieces, parts, assets, and intellectual property. The guys that worked behind it, and they moved out to Oklahoma, and one of the three guys is still there. Jake Harrison is still with the team and doing a hell of a job. So and one of the others is still working with the team. So bottom line is it was just too much to probably tackle on a day-to-day basis, and there was other opportunities out there to bring in horsepower.
Makes all the sense in the world to me. All right, now we're with Team Elite, and I met Erica Enders, and the story in the garage area, the pits, is that they reached out to you to help you. They wanted your expertise to help them test a little bit. Is this how you ended up with Elite? Tell me that whole process of them calling you.
Well, again, Richard and I have been friends for 20 years, and
Yeah.
we've done a lot of transactions together over the years. But we
I like how
really,
you put that, transactions.
yeah, we had, and
Yeah.
we just haven't. Well, he buys and sells everything under Elite Elite Motorsports, whether it's motorhomes, trucks, trailers, race cars, transmissions, tools.
I've
And,
learned a lot.
One
Yeah.
man's I wouldn't call it trash because it's all good stuff. Is
Time to get rid of it.
treasure, and he was a good facilitator of being able to move product.
Now we're getting down to the brass taxes here.
God dang it, we are. Anyway, he and I've been friends a long time. That's the point. And we always said we wanted to race together, and we finally did in 2016. I had got a phone call from Dodge and the folks at Dodge that they wanted to put together a fuel injected program with myself and with Erica and with Elite. And so we were able to bring that program together. It's the first time we ever raced together. The 16 season didn't go as we planned. Just struggled getting the the horsepower properly out of the Dodge. But nonetheless, we moved on and transitioned into Chevys for 17, and I raced with them from 17 through the end of 20 as well. So again, a lot of
I guess I meant them calling you, last,
yeah. So
last year. You're
that's the
taking me 10 years back.
hey, goddamn! I'll
like
just
it.
give a little backstory there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now we can fast forward to 23. I've had this relationship with him.
Right.
They just wanted to get some new runs on Erica's car.
I
It's
love
a brand new Rick Jones car. She's in the heat of the battle for the 23 Camping World World Championship, and did not need any distractions. Didn't need anything thrown her way, and so I agreed to come out and drive. I flew out to Tulsa. I hadn't been in a car in about 3 years, almost to the date. And
Did that make you feel good when they wanted you, hey, help us?
Yeah.
Did that make, right? You're needed.
Yeah, it felt good. Yeah, it was a different, again, a different way of going to work, so to speak. And I enjoyed the opportunity to go do it. I was nervous, to be honest with you. I mean, here I'm a 80+ veteran in the winner's circle, and most of them in pro
85.
stock. Yeah, most of them in pro stock and all the things that come with it that we've talked about. But I'm nervous.
Yeah.
I'm in Tulsa. I'm sitting in this car. All right, it's made for her. The steering column's a little different. The shifter's in a different location. Again, just get in and drive the son of a bitch, he says, So I do. And, we made 5 runs there. And by the end of the 5 runs, I was pretty happy, pretty comfortable. I felt like going to Vegas, we could handle it. Go to Vegas, the first run. As soon as I made that first qualifying run in Vegas, I thought, just like Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah,
home.
baby.
Daddy's home, boys.
Totally awesome.
And so here I was, and I really felt after I made the first run, not so much the first run, I felt competitive. I felt I'm up on the wheel. Let's give this son of a bitch a ride. And we raced hard. We raced smart the rest of the weekend, and had a semifinal finish. Got beat to Erica in the semifinals, but most importantly, had one
You
of the
did your job.
Yeah, had one of the KB cars who was number 2 or 3 in the points, Dallas Glenn, round 1, and was able to take him out. So,
you did your job again.
That was, and trust me, I was feeling it. I was like, shit, this is what they brought you here for. Don't mess this up. But it was a lot of fun. It was flattering, and I was able to meet Randy and Maria and the folks at Skag that weekend. They were a part of our program for Vegas and for Pomona, the 2 races. And Randy runs an unbelievable business in Mayville, Wisconsin. Skag Power Equipment is almost $1.5 billion business.
I see that logo like JEGS. Like you guys, you paint the world black and yellow. And now this man Skag it's everywhere.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you teach him?
No, it's so much. I left the plant facilities that we went to, and I went home and I wanted to get back to work. He was inspiring.
Wow.
I mean, he's got over 1,500 associates that work with him, and he knows most of them by the first name. Running $1.5 billion business is
Roger
impressive
Penske is like that.
Is that right? Well, I'm sure Randy and Roger would be much in the same company, and Randy's a year or 2 younger than I am. So it's really cool. Is the point? I transitioned from an iconic JEGS yellow and yellow race car and family business and all this stuff. I kind of feel like I transitioned right into another family business, which it is privately owned, and this cat's eye gold with the Skag logoing on the side, and it just feels right at home. I feel like I'm truly representing an American icon, and that makes me proud. That makes me excited. It makes me energized. It makes me want to win. And that all sounds good. It's tough to win, but it feels good to come off a strong showing in Vegas there.
Yeah, well, I learned something about a month ago. It was actually a quote from the late great Brian Clausen. When we get too cocky, the question is this: are all the other racers trying as hard as we are? And the answer is yes. Everybody, when you show up, I'm not telling you anything. I'm saying what I've learned.
Sure.
You show up at an NHRA event and you're assuming all those guys are trying as hard as you are. So when the race is over that evening, and you are the badass. You are the best that day.
Yeah.
So I get it. I totally get it. All right, we're coming to the end here. My God, already almost an hour. I always amaze myself when I'm having fun. I look up, I'm like, what in the world?
Hey.
Right. You keep setting records. So this isn't a record, but this is your first four wide win. And what I noticed about Vegas is it was the best four wide weekend I ever witnessed in NHRA. And here's why. Hey, Kenny, tell us why. It's because it seemed like every four wide race, all four were running at the end. You know, in the
Sure.
past, you got two cars that break. But what did it feel like? Or is there anything different in your seat in a four wide since this was your first four wide win?
Yeah, no doubt. I've run in several, since they were recreated, 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever the number is, and I've never been able to win one. But and I like the psychological side of it. In a pro stock car, the staging event is much, 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 much different,
Yeah.
and so I like that end of the discipline. But this week, like you said, the top fuel cars, the funny cars, were all completing their runs, and it was, I mean, triple whole shot win in the final in funny car. So Bob Tasca the third, got to the finish line first and ran slower than the other three guys that crossed second, third, and fourth. So it was cool. But in the final race of pro stock, it was pretty surreal. Had two
Hell
six-time
of a
world champs.
race.
Yeah, two six-time world champs with Erica and myself, and then you had two relative newcomers, Brandon Foster out of the KB Rain, and then Jerry Tucker out of Elite. And I knew those two guys would be hungry, and obviously the six-time needs zero introductions, and just had to be on our best behavior, and was able to mow the tree down and cross first.
First of all, we talked about it. I'm a little nosy right now. When you won, they went to Erica, and she said I shook the back glass out of it. What happened to her car?
Um, Obviously, I didn't see it, but I had heard the same. Usually, when it shakes, it's it does it for one of two reasons. Typically, controlled wheel speed, where it's more wheel speed than you want, can shake a little bit, but it still accelerates pretty well.
Yeah.
Or it's not accelerating, it's not getting the tire around and not getting it to accelerate, and it just bounces on itself and never gets to accelerate. That's likely what happened in her case. Um, there's not a whole lot you can do there. When it's spinning the tire, you just kind of fishtail and ride the son of a gun out and grab another gear and go.
Yeah.
But when it's shaking like that, you can try and get it in second gear a little early, bulk the engine down, get the tire to settle, and it just takes off on its own. Um, but in that case, it must have been shaking hard. Her 60 foot was like 1.1 seconds, where ours were like 0.98. So
Yeah.
she was a good bit behind.
Well, that's I was nosy, and I knew if anybody could explain it, it would be you. Well, last question is a fun one. You might have to think about it for 30 seconds, but that's okay. Um, as your lifetime in NHRA has existed, so you've been in it your whole life. What is the one driver that makes you go, wow, that you're still kind of like, damn, who is it?
Um, I would say honestly, it would have to be Erica today.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When I look at where she came from, she had a very successful junior drag racing career. Um, the Right on Track Disney film was huge for drag racing, huge for obviously her career, which I think is leading into what I'm getting to. She transitioned out of some of the sportsman racing, super comp, super gas, had success in those, into a pro stock. Um, Maybe didn't find herself with the right team until a couple years into it, and started winning. And she's kind of like one of those no give up attitude racers. And I appreciate that, and I like it. And she and I've had a lot of conversations in some of those time frames we just spoke about racing and about pro stock racing and etc. No credit what I'm trying to go for there. It's just when you look at her innate abilities to drive the race car, and I see her as one of those drivers, just like, wow, and
Yeah.
I've raced with some greats. You look at Warren Johnson, a many-time world champ and a great engineer and fabricator. You look at Bob Glidden, a 10-time world champ. I did race on track with him just a real little bit. You look at the multi-time champion Greg Anderson. Uh, you know, but I got to go with the 6-time on this one because I think the grit and drive and determination to win at any cost, whatever it takes. That's her goal, and that's how I feel about racing. It's we'll kiss and make up later. Let's race.
Yeah. Jay, I agree with you. And for everybody watching right now, you can scroll right here on Kenny Conversation. And I talk with the great Erica Enders. She was roughed up. She overcame. She never let them get her down. Jag, listen, you're a great man. Our history is there. I know you are the Skag man now, but it's like I'm always going to be Rusty Wallace's little brother, and you're always going to be, JEGS, and that's something to be proud of, buddy. You built a hell of a company. I know Skag is your deal now, and I know they're great people. But listen, you are JEGS, you and your brothers, and I admire you. Listen, everybody, we are in podcast form. You're going to listen to Jeggy on the way to work. It's so long. You're going to go to work. You're going to turn around. You're going to turn it on again. We are in Spotify. We're in iTunes. Jeg Coughlin, there you are, buddy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been great to be on, Kenny, without question. So we'll clash a coffee mug one of these mornings and get down and dirty some more. But I hope the listeners enjoyed as much as I did.
Well, I am sure proud to carry the Jeg logos this year. I get out of bed and I put this shirt on every single day of my life, and I drive the JEGS dirt car. And thank you so much. All right, everybody, listen. They are in the pipeline. We got the greatest drivers in the world. It don't matter if it's NASCAR, drag racing, motorcycle. I'm going to call Michael Andretti up. I'm going to call him up. Let's see if he answers my call, everybody, and see what's going on with that Formula One deal. The Indy 500 is coming. I've talked to Roger Penske. We'll see what he says. He said, let me find a time. So we're waiting on Roger Penske. All right, everybody. Until next time, we'll see you later.